At the beginning of the month, we created a fashion show which was called Couture and Compassion. We found local designers and artists in the area, and they were able to display their designs, and they were all behind the theme of mental health. I wanted to try something different to infuse art, fashion, music, everything that you can kind of think of to find a creative way to get people engaged and create organic conversations about mental health. We also had resources available. I really was nervous about it because the first event that I did addressing mental health awareness, certainly I only think I got 3 people that actually attended, and this one actually we had over 200 people that came out to support, and it was very overwhelming, which means that we need to start having more ways to meet people where they are and fun and creative ideas. So we do constantly have stuff going on in the city where we're constantly trying to provide resources for people. We do walks, walk and talk with them on our trails. We do a lot of resolutions and set policies around mental health. Our city is really spearheading some great things around with our public safety, where we have a psychiatrist that is on staff, and we're hoping that that will also be able to be something that other cities will take on as well. Also with our police department, we've also created a pilot program where we have a licensed psychologist that'll go out to any type of trauma scene to make sure that families and, people that are experiencing trauma at the time are taken care of as well, and follow them through the process. So we're creating more progressive policies around that and just really trying to address mental health awareness.
Wow. I love both of those. The first one that you mentioned with art, fashion, and stuff like that, those are all like self-expression forms of art. So I think that's a great idea to have done that, where people are actually able to feel like themselves, express themselves through their form, and that pairs hand in hand perfectly. That's awesome. And over 200 people. That's huge.
Yeah, I was excited. I was definitely excited. And it seems like, and everybody was super stoked. They're like, we're going to be back next year. It's going to be even bigger and better. So I'm looking forward to the planning of next year as well.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be really fun. That's going to be really fun. Like, you're at this number, so now you get to plan for this, right? And it's word of mouth. Everybody says how great of an event it was, and then they tell more people. And it is something that definitely needs to be.
Definitely needs to be talked about. And again, this was something, the first of its kind. I haven't seen too many fashion shows that really focus on mental health. So for me, this is definitely a creative way to get people talking and engaged. And hopefully we'll be able to address some of the issues that we're having in our community.
Yeah, no, it is. I love that, though. I love that because, it's affecting more people like almost than ever, and it still kind of has that negative stigma attached to it. Don't talk about this, don't talk about that, or some might just not feel kind of awareness things where you're not alone, right? Like that kind of thing.
And that it's making it comfortable for people to really open up and say it's okay not to be okay. We partner with some really good companies and organizations such as Silence the Shame, which was also founded by Shanti Das, who is an entrepreneur and philanthropist, and she worked in the entertainment industry with Outkast and Big Boy, all of those folks. So she has a presence in the Atlanta area, and that really helped because she's also been a victim of losing someone from mental health and suicide. So again, just using her platform to help amplify what we were doing is definitely awesome. We're trying to now work with Senator John Ossoff so he can also see if he can bring us some more resources as far as funding what we can do. This is something a little bit different because you don't find too many cities or municipalities that focus on mental health. You find that more at the county level, but local politics really is what touches people first, and wanted to make sure that we had access to those resources for my constituents and for the residents in the entire city. So for me, it was a no-brainer because my goal is to build communities and to keep them running smoothly and to improve people's quality of life so they can stay and live and want to be in the city of South Fulton.
And that's exactly where it should start as well. The city that you live in, it starts there, lets you know that your city, is looking out for the best for you, right? And yeah, love that. And so with all of this stuff that you're planning, for the city and everything, right? That's a lot of hours. It's a lot of work. And then even day to day for you is a lot, right? So what do you kind of do? Do you have a routine or what are some of the things that you like to do, to kind of unwind, like relax, like get, don't let it get to you. How do you take care of your mental health?
Well, it's funny that you asked because I just actually saw a picture that was taken this month doing mental health awareness, and I've been showing up for everybody, and I think that's one of the things. As elected officials, you're constantly showing up. You're trying to save. You're trying to help everybody, and sometimes you forget about yourself. And when I looked at the picture, I could see the worry in my eyes because there are a lot of things that I'm going through as well, but because I have to show up for other people, sometimes I put myself on the back burner, which is not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to really take the time out and just say, you know what, today I'm not okay, or just find different creative outlets. I enjoy working out, I enjoy shopping, I enjoy doing all of the things that I'm probably not supposed to be doing, but I find some type of solace in that. But it's really hard. It's really hard when you're trying to be a public advocate and people rely on you, which is probably what a lot of people that go through mental health issues are facing. They're just trying to make it through day to day. One of the things is that I do have a good core group of girlfriends that we do check on each other. We're always reaching out throughout the day. I really encourage people to do that. But it is something that has to be disciplined because you'll lose yourself trying to help others all the time.
Yeah, great answer. That is definitely that's a really good way to put that, right? Thinking about it that way, where you do have a lot of people depending on you, so then that can add some an extra layer of stress. But then it's almost like you don't really, like you said, you put yourself on the back burner. You don't really want to, put yourself first over others, which then makes it, again, even a little harder, to have peace for yourself.
Yeah, it does.
So that's
good. It does. It makes it hard. But again, you want to show up and you want to be present because, your impact is helping others. So that's what kind of gets me through the day.
Yeah. And it's if that's something that, helps you, knowing that you're helping others, right, that, it does get you through the day. It does make it a little bit easier, right? Because you can really only help you can only help others if you're helping yourself. Like if you have your, if you're good, then you can, help make sure others are good. And that's, it's very, very important. And, the support system, or the core group of good friends that you have, I love that too. It doesn't even have to be a full on conversation. It is truly just, reaching out, saying, hey, how's your day?
Yeah.
You never know when somebody, never know when somebody, even just a, hey, hope you're having a great day. Hey, right? And if they, if it's in that core,
just something so small. Yeah, something. Yeah.
That one text that saves them from a lot of stress for that day.
Yep. Something just so small. It's just like, hey.
But you just never know until you do it.
Absolutely. So I encourage everybody, always check on your friends. Yeah. It looks like we lost Kyle. Oh, okay, you're still there.
Okay. Oh, hey. No, I am still right now, so the connection is a little spotty.
Okay, I hear you.
Yeah, it's like I can hear you perfectly, but I'm sure that on my end, some of it might come through a little over the breaking up, a little distorted, but that's okay. Okay.
We are listening. Looks like we got some good participation in the chat. The city has... There's a question that says, I'm curious if the city has any kind of overall measurement on the population's mental health and how improvement plans are created around that. Kyle, do you mind if I answer that? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and answer.
Oh, of course.
So,
I was
It's okay. We have actually been with our police department. Again, as I mentioned, or I don't know if I mentioned, we have a population of 108,000, a little bit over 108,000 residents. And recently, we've started really tracking the numbers. And what we have noticed, of course, with us being a predominantly African-American city, our numbers within the past 3 years have gone up from 71 attempted suicides. And then I think we had about 73 actual suicide deaths. And then for last year, I think we went up to 101. So we're seeing a trend of it actually going up. And then there was a trend and an increase in domestic violence issues. Now, at first, I was really concerned because I was like, oh, we're in the pandemic. People are tired of each other, especially with these families being in the house. We just did not know how to cope and adjust. But coming out of the pandemic, you're still seeing an increase in this. So we started again with just knowing that. We started to make policies around that, not just for our public safety officers, not for the community, but also for our employees as well. We have an award-winning program where our employees are able to get almost up to 6 months of, mental health therapy. They're also given days off for that. So we won an award for actually having a very robust mental health awareness program for our employees as well. So in our city, we're really taking it to heart, and we're really focusing on driving home that we want to save lives by giving an opportunity and space for people to talk about the issues that they're experiencing.
Yeah, awesome. And then, we've got some good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got some good questions. And then, Queen Mo says, start your day with somebody checking in on you is a great way to start. It is. And then we have Joyce asking, are more people realizing it could be a disorder if not taken care of?
That's a good question. And I think people are not talking about it in that aspect. But I think as we continue to have these conversations where we're really making it organic and people feel comfortable, I think then that the more information that we'll gather, we'll be able to really understand if it is a disorder, if it lingers on, or people are not seeking the proper attention and help to address whatever issues that they're going through.
Yep. Exactly. If it just continues on without being, at least for the person, for the individual, at least being talked about, and sometimes it is just as helpful just to get things, out there. Like if somebody's holding something in, and then, just being able to talk about it just in general, like, because it's a little different. You can say it out loud, if you are in a room, you can say it out loud and you're still talking about it and, saying it out loud. But it's different when somebody's listening to you and you're heard. You feel heard.
Absolutely. So, and we have a lot of young people in our community as well that are taking their lives. And one of the things that we're encouraging families to do is seek resources. It's okay to open up and say, and not be so prideful, because as I mentioned before, not just in communities of color, but in certain communities where, you're living pretty well, you got your nice house, you got this great job, and sometimes things are in shambles and people don't know how to ask for help. We're trying to make it to where people are comfortable with that. A lot of young people have to face a lot of stigma and trauma through social media. And I even being a Gen X or a Gen Z or whatever, whichever one I'm in, I see that because there's a lot of bullying online and things of that nature. So if young people are not able to adjust, or know how to open up and talk to their family, then it really does a number on a lot of our young people, and they're actually taking their lives, and that just doesn't sit well with me. Lower income communities are scared to ask for help. I do think lower income plays a part in it, but our city is pretty much a little affluent city that's right outside of Atlanta. So I think it's just the stigma overall of asking for help or thinking that, mental health is a taboo, or that person's not really experiencing anything, or it'll be fine. They'll just go and take a nap or pray it away. That is the type of I guess, mindset that sometimes a lot of our communities hold, and it's from our past. It's trauma from our past or how we was raised. So if you think back, like for me, for instance, I can use myself as an example, as I've had an older aunt where, even at Thanksgiving, we knew something was wrong, but nobody really addressed it. They just kind of swept it under the rug. So I think that's something that continues to be a cycle in different families, and that's why it's important for me to use my platform to help trying to get people to open up and talk about it. Because the more that we get people to start being okay with talking about mental health, I think we'll touch and make impact a little bit more as well.
I agree. I agree with that.
Okay,
And then we had another good question from
Okay, I'm here. I got my
she
Barbies.
asks, are you working with women in the community that have overcome domestic violence?
They are
Yes,
Barbies.
yes,
That is
and
Barbie.
yes.
You
That's
young.
another
You don't
thing
know about
that
what Barbie
I just
originated.
got an inbox just over the
Listen,
weekend
'cause
where
you're young.
there's this young lady
You're
at
young
work
still.
who's
This
really
was
trying to get
considered
out
a
of her
Barbie.
situation,
I know
but
what you talking about. I know the Barbie
she's
you
just
talking about. But I'm still gonna
she's
call them
scared.
Barbies.
So for me, having to
They're really
be able
brats.
to
You
provide
know the Bratz
resources
dolls?
to her
They called
boss
them
to
Barbies
help
too,
her
even though
because
they really
again,
wasn't.
the stigma,
It's
afraid,
a
doesn't
Bratz
want people
doll.
to know, her business. But
This is a
being able
brat.
to be a resource for people, letting them know
Yeah, they had a
how,
whole
what's
thing about
available to
Bratz
them
dolls.
if there are kids
The
in their
Bratz dolls
household, how do we
represent
transition
Barbies because they were
her
thicker,
and her
fuller
children?
shaped.
So yes,
So
the answer is yes. That is
traditional
a
Barbie
big
was
issue
Barbie, but then the
in a
Bratz,
lot of
when they
communities, and
came,
we do have
it took
resources
a whole nother
available
level of Barbie.
that we
So
do
yeah,
share to help women
girl,
maneuver through those types of
this
situations.
is a good room.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is definitely something that is needed. I'm sure is taken advantage of. As you know, it just seems almost invaluable.
Yeah.
And then we have, how do you handle? Okay, so we can reiterate again. How do you handle your own mental health in the intense world of politics?
Oh man. Again, I do a lot of self-care. I think is important. I do try to reach out to, girlfriends. I don't like being alone because, politics can be very, very different for different people. Politics is usually a male dominated area. You're starting to see more women come into politics. But 7 years ago, when I came into this role, it was very daunting. I was very, how can I say it? I was bullied a lot online. People would say, the keyboard gangsters or whatever you call those people that like to hide behind the computer would be on social media making very crass comments because I'm a girly girl. I love to dress up. I love to look nice. I love eyelashes. I love hair, like everything, right? And the community found a way to say, oh, this is just a few people. They would go after their elected officials. And if you see also, too, in African American communities, we are much harder on our elected officials than I've seen in other communities. And that was one of the things that really bothered me. And I was raising a daughter. So I really had to stand on business, as I say, to make sure that I was setting the example because, and I would tell people, I'm raising children. Our kids are looking at us in the community. There has to be a better way to voice your dislike about, policy making or things that you don't like about our community versus having to attack your elected officials. So the tide has changed. I think people understand the position that I'm in and that that's not the most proper way to really get your voice heard or to get things done in local government. I've created to where I have ambassadors where, we come alongside each other. We work together now. So it's about making sure that we set the example for our young people, especially women, because there are a lot of young women that are wanting to go into politics. And I constantly have to remind them, you don't have to change yourself. Be your authentic self coming into politics because people will gravitate towards that. Being more authentic, people feel comfortable with that. And that's just my motto. But it was very hard, and I had to grow some thick skin very fast because there are days that I did not want to do this. I was like, you know what? Forget this community that I love. I'm not going to do this or subject myself or my family to being bullied or attacked. But at the end of the day, when you know what you know and that you are trying to make an impact and you want to make a difference, that's stuff you can push to the side because you know who you are.
Wow, yeah, so many different points, just like spot on. Like the whole when people are in a position like yourself, where it's like a very exposed kind of position, right, where you're in the spotlight a lot, or at least the center of attention a lot, right, where it opens a lot to that for those keyboard warriors, right? And it is, some of them not very hard to just brush away, but then there's others where it's just, once it's constant, it eventually does kind of wear down, and some days stronger than others, and yeah, I totally feel that. Yeah, and it's be yourself. I love that. I love that. Be yourself, because for me, I think that if you shouldn't change based on what you think people might think of you. If you're comfortable with yourself and you go into something feeling comfortable, it'll make things a lot easier as well.
Yes,
because then you're just yourself.
Mm-hmm. Very true. I agree with that.
Right, and then let's see. Yeah, lots. Deal with domestic violence, mental illness, Queen Mo. Yep, exactly, Adrena. Keyboard warriors and trolls. And, for me, I feel like a lot of that stuff stems from their, kind of stuff where things that they heard from so unhealthy, what their, right, maybe some of their insecurities, just gotta, push it away. Leonard says, small business chamber of commerce. If so, how has it impacted South Fulton?
So the Chamber of Commerce, so we have worked with Fulton County Chamber of Commerce, but South Fulton also has a Chamber of Commerce as well. So it hasn't really affected us. Overall, I think they're a good partner, and they also help us drive, information out to the community as well. So those are very good partners for us, but it hasn't really, businesses, they work very well with the city. So other than that, I'm not, sure, but we just continue to work very well with both of those chambers.
Okay. Yeah. And then I do like that point. Small business opportunities are great for mental. Are they? Yeah, he said outstanding. Yes. How do you feel the small business opportunities can affect mental, and kind of touching on Lenard's point of that?
Well, I think any small business, you got to have resources, and it's hard to really have, starting a small business and keeping it going. That in itself will just have its own set of, mental health, having to wake up every day just trying to figure out how you're going to make the bills meet, and get everything paid, and then pay your employees. But we've also done different things, especially within our city, because we try to support our small businesses as well. So we'll, have either block parties or really showcase small businesses in the community as well. We've done certain things to where we've also offered small business grants to help, struggling businesses, especially since coming out of the pandemic. I was one of the sponsors for that, because, again, we want to create an environment where businesses are surviving. They're able to grow and expand, and they're not, constantly turning over. So we really work closely with our businesses, and then trying to also offer any type of resources to help them through any trials and tribulations that they may have. It's really hard for a lot of small business owners out here. It really is.
All right. Yeah. Agreed. Sorry. I did just again to announce. I did post a disclaimer in the audio room chat. Okay, so you have been in the politics for how long?
I am going on my 8th year.
8th year. Okay.
Yes, 8th year.
So, and it sounds like you've, 8 years, I guess maybe in the world of politics might not be, like a long time yet, but 8 years for anything is a long time, right?
It is, especially when you never planned on doing it. I never planned to be in politics. I can tell you that.
What sparked? Well, before I get into my other question, then what did spark you to, just like kind of like what was the first instance, where you just decided, okay, yeah, I will go into it, and then like what was that kind of like?
So how it actually came about is that I got laid off from corporate America. I had just moved to Atlanta and I got laid off probably about maybe 2 years after being here. And the first gentleman that I met here, he ended up hiring me to come work for a small planning firm, which led me to go work for a major county organization in DeKalb County. And from that, I was a communications director and chief of staff for an elected official. And we were going through our cityhood for the second time in the city of South Fulton. The first time it didn't pass. So, residents wanted to try it again. And this time it ended up passing. We had about 72 people run for various seats within this new city. And I actually just went to a forum to meet the candidates that were proposing themselves or offering themselves up in our city. And I was just amazed with some of the things that they were saying that did not make any sense. I was just like, oh, you can't do that. Or looking at that particular, person that said that they were going to represent my area, I was like, those ideals and things that he's talking about are really not important. I don't think, I just think people didn't know what politics was really about. And Lord behold, I stood up and I was like, hey, I'm running for this seat too. I had no campaign signs. I had no money. I had nothing. But I guess the Holy Spirit or somebody came and pushed me up and said, hey, you should offer yourself for service. So I ended up doing that. I ran against 12 people, considered the underdog, and ended up winning the seat. And here I am going on my 3rd term. So it just has to be something that's in you that you want to do and you want to serve your community. I knew that I have a love and affiliation for people and making sure that we live well and do well and being a bridge builder. So it just came naturally, and here I am. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like it wasn't like a forced thing or anything. It was you felt that by looking at what others were wanting to have done or what others were wanting to happen, you felt like there was more important things that needed to be tackled first, and you let it be known. And it sounds like if you won without having that the money and the other things for for running in the campaign, it sounded like you won because of your platform, like and how you spoke, and a lot of people obviously resonated with you and what you wanted. So that's what that is. That's your determination and your hard work, and your just transparency with your community that you clearly love and care about.
Absolutely. And plus, I didn't want to turn around and be like, no, I was just playing. No. So I had to keep going.
Yeah, double down on it. Yeah. No, I like that. Because you really never know. At first, I'm sure you were kind of like, were you kind of nervous or like second guessing about it? And then, because it was something so new.
I was a little nervous, but I was committed to, making it through the fight. But when I got actually into it, once I, raised my hand and I was sworn into it, I was like, oh, it's getting real. This is real. I'm actually an elected official. Like, people will call me councilwoman, and I'm like, who are they talking to? It's me that they're talking to. But in that instance, I wanted to just make sure that I was able to be a trusted person, that the community knew that they could, people don't believe in trusting politicians, but I wanted to be that person to set an example or to show something different in how elected officials actually govern in a city.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, you brought it up right there. That's, that's another stigma, right, that you were aiming to break, just like you're, trying to break through the stigma with mental health awareness currently. I mean, you're just breaking the barriers. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're doing great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So, where I was earlier when I was asking about how many years you had been in it, does it seem like it got easier or harder from the beginning to now? Kind of with the amount of stress that you might have in your day-to-day, or have your routines changed from, the start until now, as far as, taking care of your own mental health, and your stress levels, that kind of thing? Like, has it got harder or easier, or has it, just not really come up until later on after the beginning, or what?
Well, I would say in the very beginning, it was very, very tough, because you're starting something from scratch. You don't have a platform. You don't have people. You're just starting from scratch. As we move forward, it has gotten a little easier because I know how to adjust, and then also too, I've learned how to make sure that I take time out for myself and my family. Before, I wasn't doing that. I was just all heads in, really trying to build this city, and it wore me out. It wore me out. And like I said and shared, there were days that there were really dark times. But when you learn how to be disciplined and you learn how to say, this time I'm cutting it off, putting my phone on do not disturb, so people don't call me all times of the night, and that they know that they can't call their councilwoman at midnight. Before, I didn't have boundaries. I had to set clear boundaries to make sure that myself and my family were taken care of. So it has progressively gotten better. There are some rough days, rougher than others, but it's all in how you adjust to it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would make sense. Yeah, the boundaries thing, that's something that, I feel like, at least for me, with, that's something that I struggle with some, because it's kind of tying back to what we talked about earlier, wanting to be there for people, wanting to be there for, whoever might need you at a certain time, or, whenever. It's one of those where, I don't want to set it on do not disturb just in case, right? But then also, later, like, after I don't set it on do not disturb, I start doing something, I'm, relaxing, and, it's not work-based. It could just be, for anything. And it's, something comes up, and I'm like, okay, well, now I kind of have to stop relaxing, and, I'm going to do this, right? But if I had put it on do not disturb, it kind of just, it lets people, hey, I'm trying to not be disturbed, but, and I'll check your messages or whatever tomorrow, or whenever I take it off, do not disturb. And then it's almost like, at that point, you kind of have to follow through with yourself, because even though you have it set on do not disturb, if you check it, it kind of defeats the purpose. So that's something that I am very self-aware of for myself, that I need to get a little bit better at. But yeah, just being able to handle everything and have that me time, take that time out for myself. Yeah.
Yes, you got to set clear boundaries.
Yeah. Okay, so now going back into it, when you're in the field that you're in, right? Mm-hmm. And you've made other friends that are, across maybe other districts, other departments for politics. Do you feel that there is a lot of struggle within the politics world of mental health for individuals, or how do you see that?
Absolutely. If you, I mean, there is always an elected official on the news every day in Georgia. So I don't think we have the proper outlets, or we're not using them. So some of the things that, I'm really trying to champion and bring cities alongside with me to start implementing some of the things that we're doing in the city of South Fulton and some of our neighboring cities. We just had a meeting, I think last Thursday, where we talked about, our public safety having a psychologist on staff and being able to be there for our firefighters and things of that nature, hoping that other cities will take the initiatives to do the same thing. But as far as elected officials, I really try to encourage people to, if I know them pretty well, let's go out, let's have, some drinks, not drinks, let me not say that, but have
I know what you mean.
But finding a way to decompress, because it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming. When I do see some elected officials, maybe going through something, I might shoot them a quick text and be like, hey, are you good? Is there anything that I can help you with? So just trying to create camaraderie among ourselves. And then also it helps, that people are caring. People, are not always laughing at you if you're on the news or saying like really crass things. They're really trying to reach out and help.
Yeah. So they're not like judgmental or not passive aggressive, but they're not like judgmental or like rude with their comments, or when they reach out, they're like, hey, like that's that was a tough situation. Like, are you okay? Like, how are you handling it? That kind of thing, like for yourself.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned the whole thing for the police. I like, that's something that, is now happening, but thinking back on it, like, okay, that's great that it's happening now, but it's like, why, how come we didn't really all think about that, earlier or something. Right. And it's, initiatives like that, are for, and it's still trying to bring awareness.
Well, one of the things,
and the local community, but then
yeah, it was a little spotty coming in and out. But one of the things that I do try to remind people is that policies and ordinances and resolutions really start to come about once it's usually an elected official or someone is impacted that drives it home. So, when you say, why did it take so long? It's because it didn't really impact anybody until it really impacted that person that's driving the legislation. So, like, for instance, we have something going on with trying to regulate ice cream trucks. We had a child die from, getting her ice cream and then crossing the street and then getting hit by a car. So for me, as a community advocate, I want to make sure our children are safe. I mean, this is something that I remember growing up as a kid, getting excited about seeing the ice cream truck. But we have to make sure that we create policies that make sense to protect our children when these type of things are happening. So policies are usually driven by when it's impacting different people in the community. So that's how all of that happens. And sometimes that may take a while. If it's important to them, then that's when they'll really start pushing it and driving it home. But we need more residents. We need more community members to really be advocates. When it's something that, doesn't sit well, they need to be vocal. They need to come out and talk about it and get your elected officials and partner with them to drive policies that make sense to protect our community.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry. I was trying to hit the mute button. So that's a great, that's exactly what I believe why it, hadn't been brought up earlier. And it's, it's something that's definitely going to be helpful going forward, because I'm sure it's only going to be added on to, and it's only going to be made better. And, with elected officials, being the ones that are creating these programs for the community, do you believe that there's going to be a program for elected officials where you guys get, the therapist or psychologist, anything that you guys might need, where like one day a week, elected officials, you got to go to this, like that kind of thing?
Well, what's so funny is that in our city, our elected officials, we do have our own therapists on staff. We're one of the only cities that have a therapist on staff for the elected council. So we're already thinking ahead in that way. And it's not, some people don't use the therapist, but they can use it at their will when they're, feeling a little overwhelmed or when they're going through things. So that was one of the things that our mayor implemented, and it actually is working. People are, council members are taking advantage of it. So maybe other cities will come on board, but we're already attacking that and addressing that.
Yeah. And that's great. That's great, right? Because I know that earlier we had talked about, being able to help yourself while helping others. And that's, that's one of the things that popped into my head about, okay, well, yeah, if there are a lot of elected officials going through stuff like this all the time where, they may not show it, but it's definitely something, just as a human, it's going to weigh on you, right? I don't think that anybody's, just able to not have anything weigh on them, in any kind of way, right? So it's definitely something that, since you guys have it, it would be awesome to see that kind of, catch on and pick up throughout. Because it would also make more sense. Well, hey, if your elected official is, healthy mentally, the decision making or, the new things that are going into effect, right? Like, it'd be a lot easier to maintain and, oversee with them being healthy, not stressed out about this, and this.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. See, staff therapist is an amazing resource. It is, Sabrina. We're not to walk around carry on with life and burdens, heaviness that can come with the fact. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a couple minutes left. We've been answering questions from the audience there have been great questions. Is there anything that we have not touched on yet that that you're doing currently that would fall into the mental health awareness, or anything you want to talk about?
Well, as we're wrapping up this month, I think mental health awareness should be a year-round an event to where we're always checking in on our people. We're always being a resource for folks. And wanting to let people know that it's okay not to be okay. There's no stigma attached to it. So we want to kind of drive that home. And, once we get out of this month and all of the work that we've done, we want to continue to create conversations around mental health and letting people know that there are resources and there are people just like them that are experiencing any type of issue, but it's how we deal with it and ways that we can deal with it to, be successful. So that's what I want people to just walk away with, is make sure that you're checking in on your folks. Make sure that you're taking your own self-care, and that, again, it is okay to not be okay.
Yes. Perfectly said. It is okay to not be okay. Like, don't let that build up and, give you even more worry about it. Worrying about, who can I talk to about this? Or, should I even be worrying about this? Or, why am I worrying about this? That kind of thing. Like that just builds more and more as well.
Yes.
Just feel open. Obviously, with the people that you trust, right? And the relationship that you have for communication, right? So then that way, when you do vocalize it, or you do start talking about it, you do feel heard, right? And that is definitely something, just as individuals, one of our most important resources as individuals, as humans, is that group, right? Those people that you can just talk to, and they'll listen to you, and they're there for you, right? That support system is very, very important. Yeah. And then the mental health awareness should be year round. Fully agree.
Yes.
Definitely having the spotlight in May is a great start. But yeah, it's, one of those things where as long as it just catches on and it just becomes more and more of a normalized conversation, because I do feel that, while people are okay with talking about it, they feel like they have to, not mention certain things, or they can't say certain things, or they're a little kind of like walking on eggshells when they talk about stuff like this. But really being open is the whole key to this, right?
Yes, very true. Very, very true.
All right. Well, let me go back and check the chat. Stressing out over things out of your control. Yeah. Do not stress about that. My thing is, the way that I said is, you can only control the controllables, right? And if something is out of your control, if you worry about it, there's if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. If you worry about it, it's not going to change the outcome. It's not going to change how it happens. But, it's only going to affect you at that point for worrying about it.
Absolutely. I also, if they want to know more about what we have going on in the city and more of what I'm doing, if you want to follow me, I've also dropped my website, Councilwoman Carmilita Gums, in the chat. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns, and also follow the city's page as well. We have a lot of great things happening. We are really trying to push more community engagement. So please let us know if there's anything that you need.